The breakup with your fearful avoidant left you questioning everything, because they didn't just hurt you more than anybody else had ever hurt you. They also loved you more than anybody else had ever loved you. You can't process this breakup the same way you've processed other breakups, because the emotional whiplash completely collapsed your whole world. They didn't enter your life like an enemy. They didn't enter your life with big warning signs that this was going to happen. They didn't even enter your life casually. They entered your life like an angel. They wanted you, and they didn't make it a secret. They pursued that relationship heavily, hard, and that spoke to wounds inside you where in the past you struggled to feel chosen. You struggled for clarity. You struggled to know whether you were enough. They never had you question that. You had fears, and that made you want to test the waters and get to know them. They didn't want that. They knew. They said they knew right from the beginning that you were their person, that you were the person they had been waiting for their whole lives. They were curious about you. They wanted to know every single piece of you. They asked questions, and that made you feel chosen in a way you had never felt chosen before. It made you feel so seen. But they mirrored you so effortlessly. So your likes became their likes. Your interests became their interests. Everything about you became them. You were like two people in one. They never made you question whether they were thinking about you. They constantly checked in on you all the time. And then they talked about your future so vividly, like you could have imagined they had pictured it, because they had pictured it over and over again. You couldn't believe it. And for a moment you thought to yourself, this is my soulmate. This is what people talk about when they say they just know. So you allowed yourself to sink in. You allowed yourself eventually to trust them, to trust the relationship. And that was the moment that it changed. Because you don't realize that there were two opposing forces going on underneath the surface that they had never told you about. They weren't lying when they said they loved you. I need you to know that. They weren't lying when they said they wanted to be with you. I need you to know that. But what they didn't tell you is that those two things also deeply terrified them. The relationship felt intoxicating to you, and it felt intoxicating to them. You were both in the same relationship, and you both experienced the same connection. And for a while, that connection silenced their fears of abandonment, their fears of losing themselves, their deep wounds of betrayal. Around you, they felt so chosen and so seen and so grounded and safe. That's why they were desperate to maintain that connection. They loved how it felt. Until it didn't. Until the regulation became dysregulation. And that's when you saw the switch. You see, the idea of a loving relationship is like a dream that they hold their whole lives. And when you came along, the dream was coming true. But their nervous system is wired to remember that it is scary. The minute that went off their head and their heart stopped making the decisions, it was their nervous system in the driver's seat. Everything was fear, terror, fear of not being able to meet your needs, fear of you not being able to meet their needs, fear of them not being enough, fear of you leaving, fear of them losing themselves, fear of the intensity of the relationship completely overtaking them. It was all fear. The very connection they orchestrated, they pursued, they desired, suddenly turned dangerous. And instead of telling you, I'm scared, they shut down. They were never taught how to communicate those fearful emotions, those emotions that they sat alone with as a child. So they just shut down. You watch them withdraw. You watch them detach. You watch them build up that wall. You watch their face change. You watch their eyes turn cold and icy. You watch them try to slowly rewrite that story. Slowly rewrite your love story that you were in. You watch them try to convince you and themselves that it wasn't that serious. The love story that was their dream come true. The love story that they chased vigorously. They made you feel like the prize and then casually acted like you weren't. You're left looking at the same face with a completely, seemingly different soul. That's what's soul shattering to you. There is no gradual unwinding. There is no clarity and understanding that two people tried hard to work at something and just couldn't. No, your relationship was thriving. You question your perception. You question your reality. You question how you read people and emotions. You question your memories. The things that they said to you, you question it all. But it was at its peak. Your relationship was loving and thriving because that was the very thing that caused them to shut down. You didn't imagine it. You didn't try to move too fast. You didn't misread them. Everything was very clear. The bit that they didn't tell you was that they were deeply terrified, and they didn't tell you because they don't even understand it themselves. You were chosen deliberately, fully, passionately, and wholly, and then just discarded abruptly. Of course, you're confused. But listen, the feelings were real. They did care about you. They did picture their future with you. They did tell themselves that this time it was going to be okay. But where the nervous system deeply fears the very thing their heart desires, they were always going to butt heads with themselves. You're hurting, and they're hurting too. They ran away to their illusion of safety, and for a while they felt calm, until they realized that the ache followed them too. Don't question your memories. Don't question your perception. Do not question your worth. They didn't decide you weren't enough. It's just that the love they crave and long for is the very thing they can't sustain.